Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Vercel community session. I am Amy. I'm part of the community team here at Vercel. As a reminder, we're streaming this to X and YouTube, but if you want to participate in the chat, please sign into the community site and remember to click going on the event, and that'll pop up the chat for you. That'll make sure that we see your question if you have a question to ask or a comment or anything you want to add. We will have some time at the end for Q&A, so be sure to drop your questions along the way and we'll ask those all at the end. And just a reminder, if you're hanging out in the chat, please do remember to be respectful and follow our code of conduct. And with all of that out of the way, I want to introduce our guests. We have a developer success team here to answer questions and discuss how to plan for Black Friday and Cyber Monday weekend. So let's welcome them to the stage. Hey guys, welcome. So good to have you here.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to get out of your way and let you take over. There's a lot to cover.
Yeah, sure. I will, let's do a quick round of intros so people know who we are. Dave, you want to start it off?
Cool. My name's Dave Keefe. I am a platform architect here at Vercel. I'm located a couple hours north of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. I'll pass it over to Carson.
Yes, I'm Carson Grady. I'm a platform architect as well. Excited to be here. I'm actually a Canadian transplant living in Las Vegas. So excited to be here and pass it back to Phil.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Phil Zona, also a platform architect at Vercel, and I come from the exotic land of Pennsylvania, if you can believe that. But yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We wanted to take this time to talk about Black Friday readiness. It's coming up fast, faster and faster each day, it seems, and important to be prepared. So we want to pull up the slides. We can get started. Cool. Yeah, welcome. Black Friday readiness, super important topic, especially for those of you who are trying to start a startup, which I imagine is a lot of folks on Vercel today. So here's the agenda. We have a few topics that we want to cover. We'll get into each one of these in detail, and then we'll leave time for questions at the end. First, why do we care? I don't have a slide for this because it would be empty. We had 0 incidents at Vercel last year, and we were really proud of that, and we want that to be the case this year. That's always the target, because when we don't have incidents, our customers don't have incidents, and that's better for everyone. So. Yeah, today we're going to talk about performance, observability, reliability, support, security, and cost. Just kind of walking through some tips and tricks, just little things that you can do to prepare ahead of Black Friday. And again, as you come up with questions, please drop them in the chat and we'll be sure to address those. So Dave, you want to kick us off with performance?
Let's do it. So everyone knows that performance is like an ongoing battle. There's not a one solution that fits everybody. It's always something you got to work at, but everyone wants to keep those core web vitals low and impressive so you can get those good rankings. So I'm going to talk about a few kind of performance tips, tricks that we've seen to help your application scale for traffic spikes like you expect to see on Black Friday. I won't go into a lot of detail. Like I said, there's a million things we could cover under performance, but I just wanted to cover a few that our developer success team sees on the regular. So one of the big ones that we see is image delivery not being optimized. A lot of the time we see images that are just huge being shipped to the browser when they are being rendered at quite small sizes. So the use of something like the the image optimization component from Next.js helps you serve like modern formats, smaller sizes for each rendering size or device size. It can really speed up your page performance, improve your LCPs, and other your core web vitals. Another great one is data co-location. So if your serverless functions are running in a certain region, you should have that region set up to be close to your database to avoid latency in the network requests between your functions and your database. A lot of times those are overlooked as things that people have your database in one region. You think most of your traffic's coming in the other region. You don't really think to associate the two, but that's often just a quick win from a configuration standpoint that people can save a few hundred milliseconds. And probably the biggest one that I want to talk about today is strategic caching. It can really help improve your time to first byte, which obviously helps all of your core web vitals if you can just deliver the things quickly. So we recommend people use incremental static regeneration, known as ISR, or some form of data caching layer, so you can kind of prevent spikes from your backend being just crushed when traffic comes in on occasion like Black Friday, where you expect to see a high volume of traffic. You don't need every request to go to your backend if the data is mostly the same for users. So if you can prevent that, it can kind of save costs from the backend side of stress as well as performance. So how do you know what to fix? All these performance things are great, but how do you know like what's going wrong? How do you have visibility into that? So you can hop to the next slide there, Phil. Vercel offers speed insights, which is a great way to track your real world usage. So that's unlike Crux data or things like that that are kind of standardized over a rolling period and a lot of times impacted by bots or synthetic tests. The real world usage from Vercel Speed Insights is just that. It's real world. It gives you that insight to see what is going on in your application from a region's perspective, from a route perspective, and really gets you that first level of optimization kind of insights to see where to go, what needs to be fixed to improve your core web vitals. So that's one of the observability kind of suite tools that we offer. So I'm going to pass it over to Carson next to kind of elaborate on those things to give you visibility into what needs to be done for improve your performance.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Exactly. We're talking so much about performance. And of course, what that really ultimately means is being able to measure. And being able to measure something means you can manage it. And I think what that ultimately boils down to observability. And you can bring observability to your application in many different ways. Could be external integrations, Datadog, these types of things. However you do that, a key thing to speak about when we think about Black Friday and Cyber Monday is actually getting a baseline, which is great because the time to do that is, of course, now before the event actually arrives. And in order to have that observability, one thing that's great about the Vercel platform generally speaking is the observability it brings to the table out of the box in a unified place. So if I were to share my screen here and show off the dashboard, I just want to quickly be able to show the power and the insights that observability brings. And this is actually the Next.js site, which is kind of cool. But observability brings a lot of things. There's many things to dig into, but you can see here I have a high-level overview of my requests happening. And if I were to want to drill in specifically to Vercel functions, I get a ton of data that can really help me understand my application. So a few things to just pull to your attention here quickly. Dave had talked about performance, time to first byte. Here we can actually see how our functions are behaving and to be able to see that it looks like even under P95 conditions, we're under 50 milliseconds on time to first byte. So this observability, of course, into our applications is extremely powerful. And it gives us the insights that we need both as a baseline, like we're talking about now before an event, and it can also help you identify key areas where could be your bottleneck. And I think that's a key thing to think of with Black Friday and Cyber Monday is what could be your potential bottlenecks. It could be an external service. We give great insights into external APIs. But in any case, the key thing, if I were to switch back to the slides, is the observability is really a critical part to all of this. And because, of course, what we're really aiming for with Black all the time, but even more key with these key events like Black Friday, is being able to stay reliable. And Phil is going to talk about reliability.
Yeah, thank you. One of my favorite topics. Reliability. Everyone wants their site to be reliable. We want Vercel to be reliable. And there's definitely more than just these three things that you can do. But I think these are kind of the three key ones that failures in these areas have led to a lot of the problems that I've seen, especially recently. So first of all, you want to use the correct caching strategies. This isn't always obvious. This is something that you can set cache control headers on your function responses to essentially save them and reuse them. Why this relates to reliability is it also ties in with performance, kind of what Dave touched on earlier. is you want to protect your origin from a number of requests. That can lead to performance degradation at a smaller scale. But if it gets really bad, you can actually kind of take down your site, lead to errors, and there's all sorts of cascading effects that can happen from that. So it's a whole topic. We're certainly not going to cover it here, but definitely make sure that you're caching your responses. Another thing that you can do, especially with your compute resources, right size your function limits. A lot of people will start their projects with kind of just bare minimum, and then it's not something that you really think about after that. There are several sizes of functions on Vercel, and you can configure those with memory, max duration. Those are kind of the two big things that I'm talking about here. You want to make sure that your function has enough memory and CPUs. Those are coupled. You want to make sure that it has enough of those resources so that it can, for example, render your pages. And you want to make sure that it has enough time in the event that you're calling out to an LLM or something that is IO bound like that. You don't want function timeouts, especially on Black Friday. And another thing that you can do is, and this is more of a recent development, is use the AI gateway. This is kind of not always associated with reliability, but one of the benefits that you get with our AI gateway is you can switch out your model providers with one line of code. You can even control it with a feature flag, actually. I believe I've seen a couple of customers doing that. And so it's super powerful. If one upstream goes down, you want to be able to fail over very, very quickly. And the AI gateway is one of the easiest ways to do that. And that's tightly integrated with our AI SDK. So if you're using AI for anything in your business or in your project, these are two really good tools that can improve your reliability. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Dave to talk about support.
Cool. So support to me is like what's happened. How do you resolve when something's gone wrong? Where do you look? How do you get it resolved as quickly as possible? So I broke it down to three kind of categories that I like to talk about. The first was empowering self-triage, kind of the first step. Whoever identifies the problem, can I get the most out of it? Maybe even fix it themselves right at that front line. So the first thing I always like to do is check the status of Vercel or any other backend services. I don't want to be held responsible if I just know that the backend requests are all failing. That's kind of not a front end problem, and you can find the right team. So being able to like self triage at that level, and going even the next step to like ask V0 for help. If you can find some logs, find some error messages, ask V0, include those error messages. It's very good at solving problems. That it's seen a lot of things. It knows it's been trained specifically on Next.js applications, so it's very good at kind of sussing out those what's going wrong here with given the right details. The next one I'm going to talk about is an escalation playbook. So like I say, in the event something goes wrong, it's always nice to have a little bit of context when it comes across your plate. I hate getting messages, I'm sure everyone does, just like, hey, site's down, and you have to go figure out what part of the site's down, kind of what's happening. So it's really nice to have a bit of a context template, I'll call it, where you can kind of give details, ask someone to fill out a bit of an incident form, say what the deployment is, maybe the error message, any kind of context that they can provide to someone who's responding to the incident, help them investigate a little bit quicker and get the problem resolved faster. And then the last one here is just incident roles. So it's always nice to have some predefined understanding of what your responsibilities are in the event of an incident. You don't want someone trying to do too much. If you're a developer, you've always hate when someone's tapping you on the shoulder, asking you, hey, is this fixed yet? Hey, is this fixed yet? Which just takes you away from actually fixing the problem. So it's nice to have those defined roles so people know what they're responsible for in these panicky times when something's going wrong. And keeping like the communication confusion free. So it's nice to have one point of contact, one Slack channel where everyone's kind of dumping their information in, so you're not fragmented across different channels or different threads trying to keep up with what is the latest that's happening. And one other topic just that's not here on the slide, but I'm going to touch on is just having some preparedness, right? Everyone wants to be prepared. And the best way to do that is to have some simulations, go through this as a practice run, pretend that your database is down, pretend that there's a front-end incident, and what to do, how to handle it, who's going to talk to what. That's the best way to be prepared without sitting at your desk waiting for an incident to happen and say, oh, the next time we do it, we'll be better. If you can practice it, you'll be better for the first time and just Like the whole topic today is readiness. So if you can be prepared, that's half the battle. And then you're not panicking last minute because you don't know what to do. You can feel confident that you've done this before, and you're ready to get the resolution out and have minimal impact in the event of a situation. Cool. That is it for the support section. I believe we've got Carson.
I think I'm next to security. Yes. So thanks, Dave. Top of mind, I think, for everybody. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Top of mind for everybody is security for Black Friday. And security is, of course, extremely broad range of products and services and things to think about. And some low-hanging fruit that's worth mentioning, especially if there's anything that is being worked on before going live, something in preview environments on Vercel. Key low-hanging fruit thing to call out is if you're using deployment protection. We have many different ways of configuring deployment protection for any of your environments, including production, if that ends up being a use case. But worth noting, if you're perhaps pushing things to the open internet before going live on Black Friday, something like deployment protection could be a great thing to make sure you have a good handle on. Another thing that I think is very new and timely, given this Black Friday, I think it's fair to say is the first will be dealing with more bots potentially than ever before. We would speculate based off this, I think, being the first Black Friday where bots and agents are out operating more than ever before. And Vercel has a wide range of products and services to be able to help you have granular access to these non-browser traffic. So this is different for everybody. What you're looking to be able to control with who has access to your site depends. And between bot protection, which provides a managed rule set to be able to allow for these known bots, for example, if you want to allow Googlebot, for example, of course, we want to allow that, but giving you that access and control. Another one is Bot ID. If you've not heard of this, it's a relatively newer product, but it is an invisible CAPTCHA type product where you can put on your high important routes, things like signups, things where you really want to make sure that it's real traffic engaging in these activities. And you also don't want to annoy real users. So something like Bot ID really serves that purpose where you're able to do some deep analysis on that action to make sure it's the type of person, a human, for example, taking actions on your site. And this is all sort of swimming around the Vercel WAF and the web application firewall. And this is a key thing for, I think, everybody for Black Friday, Cyber Monday preparedness is the WAF. And we don't have a bunch of time for a demo today. However, I would want to share that the Vercel WAF is super flexible. So if I could share my screen, please. I just want to show quickly a very simple workflow where you can see how I'm just sending traffic to my site here that I have the firewall open on the left. And what I want to be able to show you here is how quickly we can enable attack mode in the worst case scenario where this ends up happening. So you can see here, a queuing number I'll call out is this 200s are racking up here. We're getting successful requests. If I were to enable attack mode, you can see pretty much instantly this 400s have now popped up and the 200s have stopped. We are now actively in attack mode. This traffic is being challenged. And one thing that I find incredible about the firewall is its flexibility. There's so much to go into with custom rules and logging and so much to it. But what I would love to be able to show in this short demo is the ability to enable and disable it so quickly, and how you can see I'm back to getting successful 200 requests. So Vercel firewall, extremely powerful, many custom rule sets. We can switch back to the slides. And top of mind for everybody is worth detailing your WAF configurations, thinking about any key endpoints you want to control. This could include denying traffic, but could be things more nuanced like rate limits as well. So key things to think about when heading into Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And I'll pass it off to Phil here to talk a little bit about cost.
Yeah, for sure. If you are worried about your traffic on Black Friday, this is probably a big part of it. I think everyone's familiar with the idea that infrastructure can get expensive, and Vercel makes it very easy to deploy your infrastructure. So it can lead to runaway costs if you're not careful. Something that we offer, we try to make this as public and shout about this as much as we can. We have spend management. You can set a hard or soft cap depending on your business model. This is going to depend on just really what you're trying to accomplish with your application. A hard cap would be something like, if I exceed $10 in on-demand charges, pause my site. I don't want to serve any more traffic. That's as much as I want to spend. If you're running a business, you may not want to take that approach. You may want to set a soft cap, which would be something like a webhook that gets sent off to whatever alerting system you have, and then you can act on that accordingly. Maybe that means something like graceful degradation through feature flags. Maybe it means something else, but you have control and visibility, and I'm going to show that on the next slide. But I do want to lead with that because it's incredibly important. Part of spend management is threshold alerts, and you can set these up via email and SMS. I want to say webhook as well. And you can set these for notifications when you reach a certain percentage of your resource usage. So if you hit, let's say you want to spend $30 a month, no more than that, and you want a notification when you get to 90% of that, we can send you a text. Not a problem. You can set that up in your dashboard. And again, I'll show you on the next slide. And kind of a more abstract element to this is, think about cost efficiency. People see things like, people talk about traffic spikes and cost blowing up. I tend to think of this in terms of efficiency, because if you're serving traffic, you're probably doing something with that traffic. You're probably doing something valuable with it. So I would just encourage people to think of this as an operating line item that you can control, and think about it also in terms of like the overall picture. You're probably going to get more traffic on Black Friday. Hopefully you do. And so that more traffic is going to consume more resources, and it follows that the cost is going to be a little bit higher. What you want to do is just make sure that the cost you're paying is efficient and you're paying for high quality traffic, rather than just keep this as low as possible. It's always a tricky balance. You want to balance performance, user experience, the cost to you, cost of goods sold. But that's just a little mental model that I like to share, that I think can be helpful, especially in biggest business day of the year. So real quick, I will show what this looks like. To get to spend management, you go to your team settings. That's different from project settings. This is for your whole team. You will need the owner or admin role to control this. And if you go on, I'll use my mouse if everyone can see, hopefully. There's a billing section there. And some of the things that you can control here, we show you kind of what your on-demand billing status is currently. And then down below here is where you set your budget. And you can set it for, I'm paying my $20 a month for my seat on the Pro plan. I have my resources that are included with that. I'm okay with spending, another $5 if I get a viral spike in traffic or something. Beyond that, I want it to pause. So when I hit that limit, it's going to pause all my production deployments. Traffic stops. I can't get visitors anymore, which in my case, that's fine. In your case, again, definitely think this one through. And then there's also a section for a webhook that you can set up to receive notifications however you want. So yeah, there's actually a lot of pricing documentation and tips on cost control. We're going to share those following this, but we've got a few minutes left. I wanted to make sure that people had an opportunity to ask questions.
All right, thank you guys. We do have a couple of questions in the chat. To start with, someone asked, what has been the biggest surprise or failure point in the past Black Friday events for Vercel or within the ecosystem?
It's hard to speak to things directly, but I will say oftentimes something like a CMS, content management system, will have certain rate limits that people may not consider under load. This is where the cache control or ISR type rendering strategy comes into play, because you may want to control how often you're going to that origin.
That is a great tip. Yeah, there could be lots of third-party resources that you're using and not thinking about limits. Awesome. Any other comments you guys want to add, Phil or Dave?
No, I'll say Carson just kind of nailed it. It is that shielding your back end, and it's a lot of the times it's Vercel's able to scale infinitely, and your back end may not be able to scale as efficiently if it's not hosted on Vercel. So that's kind of the implication is if you can shield it a little bit, even for a minute or two in those spike scenarios, it can save you a lot of headaches.
Yeah, +1 caching is usually the answer.
Speaking of caching, I like that you guys kind of brought up that cost efficiency and like resource efficiency are so tightly coupled. Do you have any guidelines on maybe how to balance what to cache, how aggressively to cache, with how you want to make sure that you have fresh data, you want to make sure that everyone has what they need without using too much on those backend resources? I don't know if you have any tips you want to share here, or maybe some resources that people could go find and read to learn more.
Yeah, so this is a really good question because it's so application specific. I would love to write a guide on this at some point, but in general, I think you just want to think about like the use, like what are people using your content for? What are you serving, and like what is the urgency of it? Technical documentation, for example, you probably don't want that to be stale. If you are pushing a change to that, you need it to be live right away. Whereas, a recipe blog that's powered by affiliate links, that's maybe like a little bit less crucial to have that completely up to date. So it's always kind of a fine line between cost and freshness and relevance, but that I would kind of think of it along those dimensions and figure out what makes sense for your use case. Do either of you have any maybe more concrete tips? Or
I think I would just add, if you're using something like Next.js and you are able to think about which data changes in what way, you can often think of like an easy example is product descriptions. However you're getting that information, that can have a certain time to live that can make sense for that type of content. And then something like pricing, for example, is different. Perhaps that's more dynamic. So also just spending the sort of time within your application's architecture, of course, but how are you able to bisect what needs the freshness down to that maybe component level?
Yeah, just to build on that, I always go for cache it as long as possible. If it's not going to change ever, cache it forever. Next.js and Vercel offers lots of hooks and things like that, opportunities to clear cache as needed. So you can kind of, instead of having it automatically revalidate every 5 minutes, for example, you can set it to cache forever. And then when those events change, where the pricing is updated or inventory change, you can run an event that then will update the page and using incremental static regeneration and rebuild the page as needed. So you're not running into many outdated or stale information in those scenarios, but you're able to serve the fastest cache data 99% of the time.
Great tips. Another question that we had from the chat. They're asking, can we set up alerts, for example, for increased response times, high 500 rates, directly in Vercel, or should that be handled with some external service?
Well, it has a variety of answers, I think, because I'd say we do have a new product launched for enterprise customers. So those that are on enterprise can now set up alerts, anomaly alerts, and error alerts as well. So that's a great, powerful platform feature that's just launched. Fingers crossed on the pro availability and hobby availability, but for the enterprise folks, we do have that.
Yeah, it's a smaller group of people, so it makes sense. You start with a smaller group and spread it out once you know it's completely
That's
stable. Yeah.
We're
Awesome.
we'll throw it into the deep end. The enterprise customers tend
Yeah.
to have urgent alerts. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure it's good.
We had another question. This is kind of related to the earlier question about failure points. Do you have any examples of sites or teams that handled Black Friday extremely well from like tech, ops, marketing perspectives? And what tips we might be able to learn from those examples?
Yeah, I have a really good example from last year. This is a customer that I work with, very large e-commerce that many of you would probably be familiar with. Something that we did with them was I think we started about 2 months or even more than that before Black Friday, and we did several just kind of like sprints of performance improvements, trying to get their core web vitals up. And the theory was this would improve conversions and revenue, and it did. They hit. I don't know if it was an all-time high. I think it was their second best ever. I hope I'm not wrong on that. Sorry if I am. It was extremely smooth. I sat in with them on kind of a war room call that night, and we just sort of watched the lines go up, and it was really cool. They shout out to that team. They did a really good job preparing, and the results reflected it.
One site that just comes to mind as far as Black Friday e-commerce adjacent that's really a great shining example of actually ISR is Made in Cookware. Just a random, not a random site, of course, one of our customers, but I'm always impressed with their usage of ISR. So if you were to maybe want to look at a reference out in real life, that could be a good one to inspect the network tab on.
Awesome. Anything you want to add, Dave?
No, I think Phil kind of said it off the start that last year Vercel had 0 incidents. So we had a lot of successful customers from a Black Friday perspective. So I think that we're hoping for the same again this year.
Yeah, I think, we try to get ahead of it with tips like this. We did some similar things last year. So I think that really helped customers, and hopefully that holds true this year. Thank you guys so much. I know we're kind of at time, and I want to be sensitive to that. I know y'all have things to get back to. So thank you for taking the time. I know customers really appreciate this. I appreciate it. And hope to see you again next year for another successful Black Friday for everyone.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We have another event next week. Tune in. You can always find events listed at community.vercel.com/events. And we will see you again next time.